As soon as we started, Kim's phone notified her that we just went live. So just so you know, we went live, babe.
Good.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Happy Ginger Runner Live. Tonight is one of our favorite things to do. We haven't done it in so long, I feel like.
I feel like we keep saying we want to do more. We want to do more
once
of these,
a month or once every other or every 8 weeks or something. It is an inspiration and viewer mail episode. This is episode number 5 of that series. We love doing it because we get to read your guys' feedback, your stories. There's a lot of racing happening in the last week.
A lot of you guys out there race this weekend.
All distances too. I know people in the chat room talk about your races from this weekend because did you bond the picture? Everything okay?
I didn't.
It looked crooked. I don't know why my eye went straight to that. There's a crooked picture right there. So tonight's episode is going to be all about reading your guys' stories, talking about your inspirational stories, your races and stuff like that. I've got tons of emails to get through.
And I'm
tonight.
just going to be fixing crooked pictures the whole
time. There's another crooked one right there.
The level's over there.
Okay, I'll get it. So welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. Sit back, relax. Let's get started. Ginger Runner Live, episode number 156 starts now. Ginger Runner. Yay!
And everybody's already calling out your OCD.
Right? What? How did I don't know.
And it's also on it's in a covered up part of your screen.
The reason why just because I don't include the pre-show in the podcast version, which is probably a benefit, just to explain what happened. It doesn't even matter. There's a picture frame on the background that was crooked.
It's still crooked.
Abnormally crooked. And because what I see in my frame has a little line that's perfectly horizontal right next to the picture frame. And since it was crooked, I was like, oh my God, what happened to the set? It doesn't matter.
Is my bun level today? Are we okay with the bun?
Bun's perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. Happy Monday. That's going to get us 3 thumbs down. Just the fact that the show started with that, because people just hate when we have fun. Welcome. I'm so excited about tonight's episode. This is something that Kim and I love to do every once in a while. We always talk about wanting to do it more frequently. And I will say the number of emails that I have in my inbox that were unread from last viewer mail episode and from today, and there's a lot. We are definitely not going to be able to get through all of them, which is a bummer because I was reading through some of them tonight. And they're fantastic. They always are. And that's why these shows need to happen more often. So I promise you, that is on our agenda, is to do more of these shows more frequently. Basically, what we're going to do tonight, we're going to read your stories, your race stories, your inspirational stories, how you got into running, or, people that inspire you. I have these emails that are just full of these fantastic stories, and some are very touching, very heartfelt. Some are fun and lively. So it's a great range. If you have not submitted a story in the past, or you would like to submit your story, you can do so. It's very easy. Just emailing thegingerrunner@gmail.com, and of course, making the subject of the email viewer mail. I'm going to tell you right now, if you send it now or tonight, we're not going to read it during tonight's show because there's too many.
But do send it in, because even if it doesn't get aired on this particular episode, it could get carried on to the next one, or we're actually going to be reading them all anyways. So
regardless, we go through all of them.
Yes.
And we may not reply to all of them because there are so many, but know that we are reading them and they are awesome. We haven't received one yet that's lame. They're all just
Except
amazing.
for the one I wrote you.
You know that one. That's how we met, and that's how we got
lame.
Fell in love. I'm going back, and we have some from before Halloween. One of the emails.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the emails was "Happy Halloween," and here's my story, and I was like, oh man.
Maybe they're coming at you from the future.
Maybe. Yeah, Happy Halloween 2017. Yeah. You never know. So again, my name is Ethan, and I will be reading some of the emails, and of course, I'm joined by
Kim. And as usual, you guys, I will be in the chat room. We obviously don't have a guest today, but please do ask questions and stuff like that, because in these shows we do tend to pull kind of random questions out of the chat room as well. And there's already a lot of chit chat going on.
There's always a lot of lively chit chat.
John Grimes is in the chat room saying he's drinking House Sound Brewing Devil's Elbow IPA.
Good choice.
House Sound is one of our favorite little places to go when we're up in Squamish.
Squamish. It's at the finish line of all of Gary Robbins's and Jeff Langford's finish line Squamish series races. That's a brewery right there. It's pretty damn awesome, and it's delicious beer too. If you have any general questions, we'll also field those as well. shoe, gear, race. We have some of those that came via email, so I'll be reading those and we'll be answering some of those questions too. This is just the opportunity to talk not only about your guys' stories who view the show on a regular basis or maybe are here for the first time, but questions and fielding the questions that get asked a lot, but we don't get to answer during the live shows, whether we have a guest or multiple guests, that sort of thing. Just a bit of a recap why we're doing this tonight. It just, one, we haven't done it in a long time. And two, I've been traveling so much in the last few weeks. And unfortunately, without Kim, then I was like, you know what, let's bring it to a more mellow notch, not necessarily bring on a guest. And so Kim and I can like share our stories and stuff like that because we haven't got to see each other in so long. I've been away traveling for two reasons. One, a decade on was on tour.
Lots of people in the chat room are already talking about how they've already watched it, and everybody is loving it. Yeah,
Brian Morrison and I took the movie on tour through the South, and we got to meet a ton of people, lots of live viewers. It was fantastic. Over 1,000 people on our 10 stops. I think it was 10 or 9 viewings. Saw that movie, met us, did great Q&As. It was fantastic. And then this last weekend was the last time that we took the movie on tour. Brian actually hosts a trail camp up on Orcas Island in Washington State. Gorgeous, gorgeous island. And it's this cool camp with like bunk beds and cafeteria with fantastic food, and the people were fantastic. So we did our last public screening of that up there on Orcas Island, and it was fantastic. So the movie will be available March 17th, which is next week. It's next Friday. Go ahead.
11 days from now. There was somebody in the chat room, I didn't pull their name, but they said, hey, Ethan, are you going to be bringing the film to Aptos or Monterey? And that was actually, Aptos was your very second stop.
It was the very second stop. Sacramento was the first one. Seattle was technically, so third. Right. Seattle was first, Sacramento second, Aptos was third. We will not be touring with the movie so much now because it will be public. I think there might be a couple places I've reached out and said, you should bring it here and we can do a big Q&A. Those types of things might still happen with the movie because Brian's story is just incredible. For those,
he's just like such a nice guy.
Such a nice guy. He's awesome. And doing a Q&A with him is super special. So hopefully we'll do more of those type of events. So less of like, hey guys, see the movie for the first time, and more of let's watch the movie and actually talk to Brian. So we'll be doing some of those in the future. Keep an eye open for dates and stuff like that. But so yeah, that's basically what we did on Orcas Island. It comes out publicly on March 17th. Everyone can view it. It is free. You do not have to purchase it. I don't necessarily believe in content that you have to pay for. However, to make a living, we will provide like supplemental materials or behind the scenes or, other things that if you so choose to, you can help support the films being made. But the films, like the big films and projects themselves, will always be free. In this case, we actually released the movie. Some people are talking about already seeing it. And some of you might be wondering, well, how did people see it if it doesn't come out until March 17th? And that's because we released it to those who are supporting the show and the channel. You okay?
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Is the frame crooked? We good?
We're good.
People who support us through Patreon, patreon.com/thegingerrunner, which is basically how this whole channel survives every single month, both Kim and myself. This is our full-time job. So people support at any level on Patreon get to view it right now. Right now. So that's where we were. I was on Orcas Island. It was awesome. And now I'm back and we get to share a beer together. Finally.
That I just was like spilling all over my place.
Oh, was that what was happening? Go ahead.
And I want to give a shout out to Jack Natives in the chat room. First time managing to catch a GRL live. Greeting from New Forest, UK.
Hey, cool.
Welcome.
We have actually had an influx of new UK viewers, which I think is really rad. And if you guys want into the chat room right now, shout out where you're from. Just so we get a good idea of where people are coming from across the globe. It's actually happened organically almost every week. There's kind of a coming in from California, from New York, UK, that sort of thing. But yeah, let us know where we're coming from. Let's see if maybe we can figure out who's viewing from the furthest location live.
And then Raul in the chat room says, Ethan, I ironed on the GR patch to my trucker hat, wearing it today. And Raul, congratulations.
Congratulations, Raul.
On killing the Griffith Park 50K.
Yep.
I think I told Raul that I was going to come try and cheer him on because I was doing my long run out there that day. Raul finished before I started my long run on Saturday.
Yeah, he crushed it. He crushed it. Raul, congratulations to you, man. Last year we ran with Raul in the half marathon.
And by ran with?
We watched him run away.
Yeah.
I think I finished, I think Raul, you placed during that race, or like top 10 or something. I forget what it was, but I was a few people behind him, and I just was like, man, crushing it. So congratulations to Raul, frequent viewer of the show, which is always, it's always great to be able to give you guys the shout outs. You guys deserve them wholeheartedly. So congratulations, Raul. I was actually talking about bringing Raul on the show tonight. Raul, if you are watching live, drop me an email and I'll send you a link. We can pop you on. You can talk to us very briefly about how the race went. But yeah, drop me an email because I can send you the link and we'll talk to Raul in person. How about that?
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that is fun.
Get my headphones if Raul is actually available.
Or we can share a headphone or something. Yeah, let's just do that. We'll just share a headphone. Cool. So I want to get this thing started. We've already been talking far too long about stuff. So let's talk about you. Again, lots of emails have come in. I'm going to start with one that actually did come to us in 2016. There's a lot that I just I'm not able to get to, but we'll start here with an email from Sam, and we'll kind of start working our way more recently. Sam says, "Hey, Ethan, hope you're well. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you. You're an inspiration, particularly this year as I've had a few injuries, and being able to watch your films and tune into GRL every Monday, well, usually Tuesday morning over here in the UK. Hey, another UK viewer, has played a big part in keeping me motivated throughout long bouts of no running. My partner and I are heading to LA next March, and I was wondering whether there are any trail races you'd recommend looking into whilst we're there." Whilst, I love it. I got to use whilst more. Whilst we're there, 10th through the 24th, or just any must-run trails you'd recommend checking out. Thanks again, Ethan. Keep doing what you're doing. All the best to you, Kim and Gus. Great question. We get this question a lot. This is why I wanted to start here. Southern California is a fantastic place to run, whether you are a road runner or a trail runner. You would not think so, but there are endless possibilities.
And close to the city, too.
Like, ridiculously close.
Yeah.
In fact, right in the heart of the city is a giant park known as Griffith Park. We just talked about it. There's a race there. Kim and I train there almost every single day of the week because it's where the Hollywood sign is, or where the Griffith Observatory is. There are a lot of trails in that park. They're very public. Like, there's lots of people there all the time, so you always feel fairly safe. But there's also good like single tracks and ridge lines. You get great views of the city, and you don't have to drive too far. So it's a great park that just kind of gets you the best of everything.
And you can access it from like different points too.
Completely.
So it's not like
if you live in the valley or visiting the valley, you can access it from the north side. If you're in Hollywood or near the Hollywood Walk of Fame, that sort of thing, there's entrances to the park all around it. So that's usually our first recommendation for someone maybe just getting their feet wet, looking for a trail run or even a road run in LA.
The Griffith Park half, full, and 50K occurs in March.
Yeah, I mean, the 50K, the Kira Henninger's race just happened this last weekend, and they're fantastic. So, Sam, if you're in town last weekend, maybe you ran it. I don't know. It's not the 10th yet, so probably not. If you are looking for something more difficult, you have the Santa Monica Mountains, and there's, I mean, endless trails out there. You can link together some amazing stuff simply by searching trailheads such as Los Leones Trailhead or the Will Rogers State Park Trailhead, which is the backbone trail. Or if you're coming from the north side, there's the Reseda Trailhead or the Dirt Mulholland Trailhead, and that's just on the eastern side of this mountain range. So you have a western side which has Point Magoo and all these incredible trails to follow up. These are just names that you guys can Google if you are ever coming to Southern California and you want to find this again. And don't worry, you can go back and watch this episode and get these names again. If you're looking for, go ahead.
Robert Folland in the chat room says P22, the famous Hollywood lion. Yes.
And I saw P22. I'm one of the few humans to have seen him, which I'm like, kind of proud of that, but I didn't know it at the time. Here's my crown. It's in the shape of giant claws. If you were looking for really like tough, good mountain running, you have the San Gabriel Mountains, the Angeles Crest, Angeles Forest is incredible. I will say that it's got some snow in spots now.
Yeah, they're still getting weather up there.
Lots of weather, and we highly advise you to not explore the high peaks during the season. I'm just going to say that now. It doesn't matter how experienced you are, how familiar you are with the terrain. Don't do it. That's it. I know that people always see pictures of people summiting snowy mountains in Southern California, like Mount Baldy. Mount Wilson doesn't have snow right now, but Baden-Powell. These peaks are not ready for human feet to tread on them yet because the snow has been thawing, freezing, snowing. Basically, it's the cycle that has created some of the hardest, slipperiest ice that is impenetrable by any sort of Catula or microspike or even crampons or ice axes. So do what you can to avoid those peaks at all costs until it begins to thaw.
Yeah, it's really deceiving because people think because we're in SoCal you can just go do these big mountains anytime you want.
It's Southern California.
There's been like
deaths,
fatalities, and carnage out there,
stuff.
And rescue after rescue after rescue. So
highly recommend you avoid that. But there are mountains
tons of good
and
stuff.
Trails that are like untouched by weather right now. And well, we had rain and mudslides and stuff, but the trails are still open. So Mount Wilson, Verdugo Mountains, Echo Mountain, Iron Mountain, all these things are really difficult and fun. Red Box, so explore that area.
Raul says he is sending you an email.
He is sending me an email?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a look here in a little bit. Let's see. I didn't get one there. There's Raul. Okay, Raul, I'm going to send you an email right back and invite you on. Just jump on in whenever you can, Raul. That'll be awesome. How cool is this? Live right now. We're going to see if we can get Raul on. All right, I'm going to go back to those emails so I can continue on. So that was from
Quippers in the chat room says, "Love your latest BTS video. Orcas Island is the best."
I agree. For those unfamiliar, I've been doing daily videos occasionally when I'm doing something that I want to remember and look back on and remember the experience. I did daily videos during tour, so you can go back and watch our tour of the South. And I also did daily videos while I was on Orcas Island. And I felt like each video from Orcas Island got better. The last video, some of the footage I'm really proud of some of the footage that I captured on a day where I was having a rough morning. I wasn't having a good run, and like the weather was
I think the lack of sleep was catching up on
it. Always does. We always talk about that. But I'm really happy with some of the shots in that video. So go watch it at some point. This email comes to us from Darren. Hello, this is long. I apologize ahead of time. I'm 52. I started running last year, June 1st. And since then, I've averaged 40-ish miles a week every week. And I've completed 26 official timed races from 5. Excuse me, this beer makes me a little burpy. Timed races from 5Ks to 50Ks, 4 road marathons, 2 half marathons on the road, 32, 11, 13, 5, 3-mile trail races, etc. I run weekly with a group of more experienced runners. It is fun to learn and run with older people for their wisdom, experience, and unique perspective on running. Their attitude is usually just enjoy the journey. Don't get too hung up on your time. On the other end of the spectrum, the young people bring their energy and the need for speed. In spite of my old age, I'm interested in both going fast and going further. By the way, I did qualify in my 4th marathon for Boston 2018. That was my significant achievement moment of the year. That is incredible. Nice job, Darren. My advice for new runners, if I dare with my limited experience, set goals, whether it's distance, speed, or finishing a race. Don't be afraid to come up short as long as your attitude is that you'll regroup and try again. Find a group to run with to stay motivated and keep you accountable. It may not be the first group you come across, but don't underestimate the benefits that other runners can bring to your running. You may not agree with this advice, but I feel strongly that you should toe the line as often as possible. It's not because it's awesome. It's because you need to go through the anxiety and gain experience more often, not just for any particular big race that comes along every 3 to 6 months. I do not always look forward to a 5K or 10K because I know that I'll bust my butt for a respectable time, or getting up at 4 a.m. in the winter for a random local trail run when I can relax on my day off. However, I never regret any race once it starts, and finishing is always the great reward for your work and sacrifice. I usually feel a bit of euphoria for the next few hours when I finish, whether I hurt or not, and I always learn something from each and every race. Also, I obsess over my numbers for the next few days, good or bad results. It's fun to see how you stack up and can also help motivate you to improve and rethink your training if necessary. For the record, I do enjoy the training aspect, running a beautiful trail just for the sake of running and the people I meet, and hope to either just help or learn from. I'm not a complete race junkie. I appreciate the endeavor in its purest form, just running because it feels good to run. By the way, I obviously enjoy and appreciate what you two do. You both have exceptional attitudes and energy, and you're fun to watch because you enjoy what you're doing. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Darren from Ohio. Oh, and Gus is trying to get up on our lap. That was great, Darren. I totally agree. A lot of your points make perfect sense, and for a lot of people, it can be really helpful.
Yeah, and I will today, Ethan and I were out for our run, and we were talking about racing and race anxieties and stuff like that. And you mentioned in your letter that, well, you may not agree with me, towing the line often is actually helpful to get out those race anxieties. And that's something I was thinking about today of yeah, I do need to put myself in those race situations more often to just get more comfortable with, those pre-race jitters, those pre-race anxieties, and just kind of get used to getting over those feelings, I guess.
Yeah.
So, well, all those times towing the start line may not be race effort.
Mm-hmm.
I think getting yourself into those situations is helpful.
Yeah, and I agree with that advice. And we've listened. Gus is like really wanting to see what's up here. You want to come up, dude? Yeah. He'll come up and then he'll want to get back down. So everyone, Mr. Gus, what's up, buddy?
And Darren Burris in the chat room goes, "There's another Darren."
What's up, Darren?
I'm sure I sound just like Darren.
Yeah, the same person. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of trying to race as often as possible. I don't do it because I don't necessarily have the time all the time. And that does add that little bit of extra, well, I'm committed this weekend to do X race or X thing, you know, because you end up spending money or that sort of thing. So there are some positives and negatives, but definitely it can help with we just talked about, like you said, we just talked about that with the race anxieties and stuff like that. All right. It's the Gus show. You okay, bud? He's just so jealous. Raul, are you having problems joining us, my friend? Where's Raul? Has he mentioned us at all in the chat room? Because he hasn't emailed back, and I did send him a link.
Maybe he changed his mind.
He's like, I'm done. I don't want to do it. Raul, join us whenever you feel like. Once I see you pop up, we'll begin to talk to you. And maybe just in case, I'll keep my headphone in, because that's right. If he pops in, I wouldn't be able to hear him. All right, so I'll do this ear if you do that ear. Just in case Raul pops in. And Gus is like, I want a headphone. What are you doing, buddy?
Oh, boy.
Frame is... What the hell's going on?
Well, I got him now.
Okay, bud? All right. Let's go on to the next one. This one is from Christopher Wynn. And if Raul jumps in halfway through, that's totally fine as well. He's going to try to climb up on the laptop.
And Raul, if you are having problems or whatever, just let us know in the chat room.
Yeah, we'll get you in, though. All right, this is from Christopher. Hello, Ethan and Kim and Gus. I wanted to send you this thank you for the content you guys put out and share and to share my running story and inspiration.
Let me take the dog.
Do you want to take the dog?
You're like having troubles reading sentences.
Launch the headphones there. Sorry, bud. So grumpy. Go to your bed, dude. Back in 2012, I set a goal to run a half and full marathon in the same year. That was it, just to get it done. In March of 2012, I completed the California Classic Half Marathon in Fresno, California, with a time of 2 hours, 20 minutes. Not a great time, but I had never been much of a runner before. When I was younger, I had had bad asthma and was obese. I did not train but 4 weeks for the half marathon, but being I always get this word wrong, kinesiology major.
Kinesiology.
Thank you.
You got this, babe.
I'm trying. I was surrounded by enough to get me in a good spot to finish. That was my only goal. The full marathon, 2 cities marathon, Clovis, Fresno, was that November. I didn't expect a great time, but I wanted to just finish. Based on my half time, I set a goal of finishing in under 5 hours. At the halfway point, I was right around where I was for my half marathon, around 2:19. What I did not expect was to lose around 2 minutes per mile over the course of the next 13 miles. I'd been battling knee problems during my training, and right around 7 miles, my knee would stiffen up. At the 18-mile mark, everything had caught up to me. I felt as if my training had failed me, and know now that my nutrition had failed me massively. I was in a world of hurt. Around the 20-minute mark, I started to jog and limp, and actually stopped for a while, contemplating if I could even finish it. At mile 23, aid station, I saw one of my instructors and figured I had to power through the rest of the race. I finished the marathon with a time of 5 hours and 34 minutes. The next day, I could hardly get out of bed. My knees hurt to bend, not just one, but both. It took another day or two before I could get around to decently walking. After that, I was done. I hung up my running shoes for the most part, aside from 2 5K runs, and moved on to other hobbies. Archery is fun, by the way. Earlier this year, on a whim, I went out for a run. I still had my old Saucony Ride 4s and took them for a spin. That lasted me a few months, going on random jogs. I wanted to do more and get my health back. Eventually, I got to doing Thursday night group runs at one of the nearby running shoe stores. I knew I needed a pair of new shoes, but didn't know where to start, and knew I didn't want to spend another $150 right off the bat on a new pair, considering that I didn't even keep up with running last time. I browsed the internet for deals along with reviews, since I wanted to make sure I was getting something quality. I happened upon one of your reviews around August of that year for the Saucony Zealot ISO. It just so happened that Running Warehouse had a great deal on them at the time, and since version 2 was already out, I got a pair and decided that I wanted to do more than just run. I wanted to give a half marathon another shot. I wasn't sure about a full marathon just yet, or if I could even come close, but I wanted to try the half. I signed up for the Two Cities Half Marathon in Clovis, which was this past November 6th, but I'll get to that later. After watching your video, I subscribed to your channel and went through some of your reviews to see what else was out there. Along the way, I watched one of your short films on trail running, and Raul's about to join us, so I'm going to keep reading the story, and then we're going to have Raul here tell his story.
Oh.
Yep. Just 1 second, Raul. Just going to finish this email. I don't know. I don't even know if Raul can hear us. I see him, and he's staring at us. Okay.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. We're just going to finish up the story, and then we'll talk to you just 1 sec.
Hey, can you close out the browser over there?
Okay. I was blown away by all the different places. I'm actually going to mute Raul. Sorry, Raul. Mute. I think his internet might be a little bit slow too.
Okay.
Raul unmuted. It's okay. I didn't know much about trail running, as my experience had just been on the road. I was blown away by all the different places in the mountains there was to run. Beautiful scenery, largely on the West Coast. So shortly after, I started watching some of the GRL podcasts that were uploaded, starting with a few featuring McGirris and some random others. I was inspired to keep running. I'm already signed up for 2 more half marathons next year and plan on doing a total of 3 in 2017, part of a great series that one local shop puts on. My half marathon last month not only went great, but I set a personal best time of 2:09:34, about 10 minutes faster than my split half of Clovis Fresno full marathon. This past weekend, I also ran a 5K and set my PR for that distance at 26:17, a far cry from struggling to keep a 10:30 pace when I started running again this past May. Along with that, I've grabbed a pair of trail shoes and will be hitting a few trails soon. I also plan on sneaking in a few 10K, 10-mile runs in between my 3 half marathons this year. Again, thank you for your inspiration you give others and the great content you put out. I hope I wasn't rambling on too long. You were not, my friend, because it's great to hear a story like that where it happens very often. We talk to people on the show very often who run these races for maybe their first time running a certain distance, and they think that's it, and then they take a long break. Totally normal to take a long break, take a hiatus, because either it sucked, they had a terrible experience and they just needed a break, or it went really well and they executed and they were looking for another challenge, so they took some time. In this case, it's great to see you conquered a half marathon. Even the marathon you managed to finish, which by the way is a huge accomplishment. Doesn't matter what your finish time was, it's pretty damn awesome. And then to come back and then set a new PR it's awesome. Congratulations, Christopher.
Okay.
And please keep us posted on what ends up happening this year with your 3 half marathons. Here we are. We are joined by the one and only Mr. Raul, and a guest. Raul, who is this with you?
This is my daughter, Olivia.
Olivia!
Hi, Olivia.
Hi!
Fresh new haircut.
I like that haircut.
Oh, yeah. Her hair off earlier, so we had to give her a haircut.
Well, Raul,
it was kind of a forced situation.
Yeah, but it looks good. It looks very, very good.
Great.
So tell us a little bit about your race. It was just this last weekend. Tell us a little bit about how it broke down for you.
Well, I kind of set low expectations for myself, even though a lot of people have higher expectations. So I went in with the only goal to have fun.
Sure.
When the race starts, and so the competitive drive kicks in.
Absolutely.
So I was kind of like I think it was around like 8th, like the beginning, and I caught a guy at the end, but 20 or so. You're gonna go there? Okay. At mile 20 or so, I started having one of those gut bombs.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I'll tell him later. Okay. Okay. She wants me to tell you something later.
Okay.
Okay, she'll tell you. But around like mile 20, gut bomb, and I was slowing down. It's like, and I was just like, I get to the top of the climbs, and I was like dry heaving. I was like, come on, Raul, like keep it down, because I knew that if I threw up, I knew I'd feel better, but I would.
Yeah.
I remember I had some ginger chews in my pack that I had with me that I hadn't used. I put them like there like a year ago, hoping to have to use them, but I never had to until that helped a lot. It kicked in about, I would say, like 15 minutes later.
Nice.
I was able to get some more in. I wasn't dry heaving anymore, kept going, and I was able to catch one guy and get 7th for my finish. I placed about like 3rd in my age group. So
That's
I
awesome.
podiumed on that, I guess.
That's so awesome.
But yeah, I was. I mean, yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, like top 10, you know. But I definitely could do better, especially towards the end of the race where people are starting to slow down. If I would have kept up my pace, I would have caught a few more people, and I would have been at least 5th. I would. But it was fun.
That's incredible, man. Like I'm pretty familiar with this course Kim and I run in Griffith Park all the time.
It's a tough course.
It's tough.
Like like people I think about Griffith Park as like just being like a very small park in the middle of LA, but the course itself, even the half marathon course this year, looked tough.
Yeah, they toughened it up. They added some bigger climbs. I mean, the park is in beautiful condition. It's gorgeous, which definitely helps kind of power through some of the low moments. But it's not an easy 50K, despite the fact you'd think, oh, it's just in LA, like it's right in the city. There's what are they gonna do? They can't do anything really difficult there. That's amazing, Raul. Huge congratulations, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Were you always a fast runner? Because I feel like every time that you and I have done a race in the Southern California area, you always kick my ass. But have you always been a fast runner?
The funny thing is I don't it's just because on Instagram or like on Strava, it kind of keeps you humble. So those are the people like you strive for, like, you know, like Guillaume, you know, or like Jesse who won the race. Those are the people that like you're just like, okay, cool. Like I never really be there, but you. And it's funny, it's funny that you think I'm fast because I don't think I'm fast at all. You know,
You're
fast, Raul. Third in your age group, and even just top 10, 7th place at this one's pretty good. You have a lot of local fasties that come out for these local races, and it's good, man. That's real good. Real proud of you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a strong community and fun. Oh, Olivia's back.
All right.
What does she want to say? What do you want to say, Olivia?
Hi. Tell him, what did you do? What happened?
I ankle my dad last time.
She rolled her ankle the other day, so we were in urgent care hours. And this was yesterday, so the day after the race. So I had to carry her everywhere.
Oh.
And I was, so.
Well, Olivia, I've hurt my
hand.
ankle before too. I've done that same thing. It hurts, I know.
Thank you.
I don't know if she heard me, but I know what it felt like, and that it hurts. Are you better today? Are you any better?
She said.
Not yet.
Okay, that's okay. You'll be better. I promise. It will heal. That's so cute. Well, Raul, man, I think we're getting a little bit of internet lag, but I wanted to thank you for coming on, and huge congratulations on 7th place at Griffith Park 50K. And Olivia, I hope your ankle gets better faster than later.
Say thank you.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome. You got it, man.
Thanks, guys.
We'll talk soon. Later. That's great. Raul is awesome. He's a huge supporter of the show. He's been in the audience almost every single Monday. It's great to see him. Actually get him on the show live is fantastic. And to see that he placed 7th overall is just, it's nuts. Raul, you can just click the little red hang up guy, right? Just click that guy right there. And you should be good. I feel like the internet was just a little laggy.
A little laggy.
Yeah, a little laggy.
It's okay. Goseki Enzi says, chugga chugga Raul, chugga chugga Olivia.
His daughter is always so cute. She's been to races and
so
stuff like that.
cute.
She's super, super cute.
I had to comment on the haircut because
yeah, absolutely.
I heard a bit of the pre story to that.
Right.
So.
Back to the emails. Any questions or anything like that popping up in the chat room? First of all,
No, just everybody stoked for Raul.
Mm-hmm. It's great to bring on someone who is in the audience every week watching the show, or watching the archives
I
and
like
commenting.
doing that because that kind of gives everybody else like a chance to kind of hear the other person's voice and to see what they look like and to hear their stories. I think that's really fun.
Totally agree. This email comes from Paul. Hi, Ethan, Kim, and Gus. Bear with me on this intro, but I wanted to give a little background story. In 2014, I lost the spark and desire to enter races that in the past had filled my calendar. But why? I still loved the trails. I was still fit enough, and there was still 1 or 2 races that I loved to do. But why not the others? I was missing something, and I didn't know what. Personal best and 10K were no longer exciting words. Then I received my monthly subscription edition of Trail Running, and as I began to read the opening welcome by Lizzie Hawker, something began to strike a chord within me. Phrases like the fears and the tears, the shared experiences and raw emotions, challenge yourself. In your vulnerability is a beautiful strength. Reading more articles and seeing pictures of the Everest and Eiger trail races, I began to get excited, and I suddenly realized what I loved about certain races but failed to find in others. It was the journey, the personal challenge to step outside what I found comfortable, the sharing of experiences with great people, and the opportunity to visit some beautiful places of the world. And that was it. I loved and wanted more of those races that gave me life-changing challenges, beautiful scenery, and lasting memories, all shared with like-minded, exciting people. I ran my first ultra later in 2014, the Roseland August Trail Race, which is 32 miles. And I got to use it more. Whilst I didn't break any course records, it gave me all that I had hoped for and more. Those words from Lizzie Hawker inspired me, and I am hooked. The spark is back. I got star letter for this in Trail magazine and won entry to a Lake District race in the UK. Since then, I've enjoyed a few longer distances in the UK, primarily in the Lake District, which I've never been, but I've heard is incredible. And I love every moment of these events. Now the Ginger Runner bit. Thanks for bearing with me up until now. Whilst surfing for gear reviews, I found the Ginger Runner on YouTube, and I'm so glad I did. Your reviews and informative, funny, snappily edited, and make for great viewing. The things you talk about are the things that I'm interested in, and whilst I like technical detail, some people can go overload on that side of things. So you have found a wonderful balance of covering enough and still keeping it interesting and relevant. Your video, Amongst the Evergreens, is totally inspiring. I've also been downloading your podcast and love those too. Hopefully you download this one and love it the best, because you're in it, man. Finally, someone who has had guests and lets them talk. I've heard far too many podcasts where the interviewer talks more than their interviewee or just reads out race results, and it's really pretty boring. So now I know the criteria for races and make me happy, and combined with your podcast and YouTube videos, my spark for trail running is back. So thank you, Ethan. Best wishes to you and Kim and Gus and all things exciting in 2017. My friends lived in Pacific Northwest, Portland, and Tacoma, and I've holidayed in Canada, BC. It's a beautiful part of the world. I can see the draw. Thank you, Paul. Awesome email, and I love these types of stories. The loss of Stoke and the return to something that gave you passion at one time because you found a new love of it. And that's something that I went through last year.
And I think that's like a really common pattern amongst runners.
It's very easy to overdo it. The fear of missing out can cause people to overtrain or, try to do too much, and it can get cumbersome. And taking a step back, taking some time, refocusing, and getting finding what really inspires you and what you actually want to be doing helps a lot.
Or even just like figuring out why you're doing what you're doing in the first place.
We talked about it last week with Nicodemus, the why. It's such a simple question. Why are you doing a specific thing? And
we talked about this today. A lot on our run today.
Yeah. If you are entered into a race, if you signed up for a race, you probably have a why as to why you're doing it. Whether it's, I want to see a certain type of terrain, I want to, get a personal best, or you usually always have a why. But sometimes you sign up for things that you don't have a why because other people are doing it, or,
FOMO.
Right. It's not because you really have a desire to do a specific thing, but it's because everyone else is doing it. So you think about it.
Or you think it's the next thing you should be doing. And I think that's also like a big pattern. You're getting a lot of flack in the chat room for your pronunciation of whilst.
What am I saying? Whilst? Should it be whilst?
That's what I'm seeing, but I always thought it was whilst.
I always thought it was whilst too.
But a lot of people are saying whilst. Whilst?
I'm only going to trust anyone who's actually from the UK, and I thought it was whilst. And
maybe there's an American and an English pronunciation.
Americans that never really used the word whilst. I thought it was whilst. Because I'm going by Ellie Greenwood, because I thought Ellie Greenwood used whilst.
We should probably phone her.
We should probably call her up right now. We don't have her number. The other thing is like in Shakespeare, doth, D-O-T-H. It's actually doth, but everyone pronounces it doth. So not that we are using doth in regular language, but
Cameron Harmon says it's whilst. Trust me, I read Harry Potter.
but he's not even giving a pronunciation
No.
guide. So it's whilst or is it whilst? It's whilst. Trust me. So just reading it.
I'm from England. It's whilst. Is it whilst?
Whilst. Really? Ellie is Scottish though? She's Scottish. Who knows? Have I been pronouncing it wrong? I don't use it enough. That's my first problem. My second problem is figuring out how to pronounce it.
How do you say cauliflower?
Not like that. Cauliflower.
Cauliflower.
How do you say Mario?
Anyways,
Anywho, topic change. That was pretty easy. All right, so that email was from Paul. Let me just make sure I can load
and just a
one.
reminder, you guys, we are taking questions in the chat room. So if you guys have questions for us or just general questions, please ask them in the chat room. I'll try and pull out a couple before the main show is over. And then I think, as usual, for the post show, we'll kind of...
Yeah, again, we do have a post show where we answer all like rapid fire questions and stuff like that. I'm going to go to a more recent email. This was actually came to us today, viewer mail.
Sure.
It's from Todd Wiggins, frequent viewer of the show as well. Hey, Ethan, this is a good question. I'm trying to determine when and how to tackle my first 50 miler. I have a goal of running a 50 miler by the time I turn 50, which is 15 months from now. I just finished my second 50K trail race at Mount Cheaha in Alabama. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's pronounced whilst. It went much better.
Whilst.
It went much better than my first attempt in November at Blood Rock, also in Alabama. Any tips on making the leap from 50K to 50 miles for an aging mid-packer? Todd from Nashville. Of course. One, you already have two 50Ks under your belt. Even if they went terribly, you still have finishes. So that essentially makes you ready for a 50 miler. My best advice would be to probably get in a couple of good back-to-back long runs. Some coaches tell you, I'm not a coach. I don't want that to sound like I'm a coach. I'm not. So take this advice as a grain of salt. I'm a mid-packer who's finished some races.
We have coaches that would probably happily answer your questions, though.
Absolutely. And we should get them back on the show to answer these types of questions. But my advice is to, one, trust that you can do the distance. And as far as training is concerned, I personally like to have a good couple back-to-backs. And when I say good couple back-to-backs, I'm talking like a 20 and a 25 on one day, and then a 15-ish or a 20 on the next day. So I always do a Saturday like 20 and then a Sunday 15, or a Saturday 25 and a Sunday 20 or 15, depending on kind of how you feel. But some coaches say, back-to-backs, you don't need to do back-to-backs. But for me, it's a confidence builder, because I know that over the course of 2 days, I got a big chunk of mileage, almost 50 miles in 2 days. And so that confidence alone of completing that mileage over the course of, 48 hours, sometimes less than that, is a huge confidence booster going into a 50 miler, because you've kind of already done the distance, so to speak. That's why I like doing that. And you can go as slow as you want, slow and eat and go through all of your training practices of, what it's going to be like on race day. And that's helped me at least get over that hump of, I don't think I can do this distance, that sort of thing.
And you mentioned eating and nutrition. For me, figuring out your nutrition and being solid on your nutrition has been like one of the biggest helps for me.
You've had like a
as
huge
far as like
shift,
settling in and being like okay with like the big leap from the 50K to the 50 miler.
Like I don't eat a ton while I run, because I tend to do either like a liquid nutrition, supplementing, like gels. So I tend to do, it's a smaller calorie ratio. But Kim, you eat.
I am eating constantly when I'm running.
And like you'll finish a run and be like, oh, that felt great. Like you'll totally be strong when you finish.
And that was one of the first things that my coach, Alicia Vargo, sorted out with me in the beginning, because I was having all these problems in my races prior. And one of the very first things we sorted out was my nutrition and just eating more and getting that figured out and figuring out what works for me over time. Because what works for you for a 10-mile run or a 50-mile run may not work for you for, being out there for 8 hours or whatever.
So, I mean, that's like the first piece of advice that I would give, and I think Kim would give is...
And also just wanting it.
Want it. Actually, that's great. If you've already signed up for it, that's fantastic. But I think what really has helped me is finding a race that like gives you passion. My first 50 miler was a local race here, and I had lots of friends running it. I knew I would be surrounded by people that were great in a good community. It was Leona Divide here in Southern California. It was fantastic. I knew the race director. She puts on a fantastic race. And the 50 milers since are all races that I have some desire to be there or to see the terrain, right? Squamish 50 miler, for example. I wanted to go to Squamish. It was the first time I'd been there and raced on those trails, and it was amazing. I ended up going back, and we still go back to this day to that race. Whether or not we run the 50 miler, we still are there because it's just the community, the nature, everything is so perfect. So finding a race that is either, maybe it's like in your backyard, and so maybe you get to train on the trails, or maybe it's in a destination that just inspires you, or you've seen pictures and it's like, oh, I would really love to run in those mountains. Find something that will help get your mind off of the 50-mile distance and all the negative stuff and help you focus on the good stuff. And in most cases, if there's a trail run that's an organized event, there's a good community also there. That's just kind of how it is. So you'll always be surrounded by good people. What happened?
Geek with a Side of Nerd says, Kim treats an aid station like a buffet. She's going to get her money's worth. Yes.
Yeah, you should.
As
you should.
I get my money's worth by staying out on the course as long as I possibly can and eating as much of the food as I can.
And like, if you're spending $100 or $200 on a race, you better be eating
like $100 worth of gummy bears.
And that, that's something also to be said about being back of the pack. You're getting the most value for your miles.
It might be like dirty gummy bears by that time. But...
Oh God, yeah. You might have some like pee hands and poo hands and stuff on those gummy bears, but they're gummy bears. Even if they're discounted, you can have as many as you want. It happens. Next email comes from Amber Nixon. What's up, Amber? Frequent viewer of the show as well, and I believe we actually have had her on a previous viewer mail episode. Amber, Ethan, and Kim, I have a very technical question for both of you. What is your favorite beer of choice these days? Hope all is well. Thank you for Ginger Bits and a decade on. Beautiful work. I cried from the very get-go. It's that well done. It's a great question, Amber, and thank you. It's a great question, Amber. Right now, I'm actually glad we're drinking this tonight. I had this when I was in Athens, Georgia. It was brewed across the street from where we did our screening. It is from Creature Comforts Brewing Company, and it is Tropicalia.
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's called Whilst. No, it's really good beer. It's honestly,
I think there's a whilst drinking game happening in the chat room.
Oh, probably. So. Every time I say it wrong, someone take a drink, of course. But every time, or when someone would hand me a beer when I was in Athens, it was one of these in a frosted mug, and I remember just drinking it, going, "This doesn't even, whatever they put in this is nectar of the gods."
And I'm not really a fan of IPAs, but I actually do really like this one.
It's tasty. It's super tasty.
As far as my favorite beer, I haven't really been drinking that much since the new year. I've been doing wine more.
I did have some over the weekend.
And what is it? Calera winery.
Calera, yeah. Good winery in Southern California.
That's like my favorite wine.
I have to give a shout out to some of the campers up on Orcas Island this last weekend. They let me sample some of their Fremont Brewery. Has a new IPA called Lush. The can is beautiful and the beer is fantastic. You probably saw cans of it in my Ginger Bits episodes from the weekend. It's really good. This email comes to us from Alec Wong. And when you find out who Alec is, you'll probably laugh because he's a frequent viewer of the show.
He's in the chat room right now.
He is in the chat room.
I see him. He's hiding under his...
by his pseudonym, which we'll get to at the end of his email. But Ethan, I don't think of my running history is all that interesting or impressive, but I would say that my life has become a lot more eventful since I started running. Growing up, I played all sorts of sports. I like to think I am still pretty athletic. Running has always been a part of conditioning, never thought of it as enjoyable. I didn't discover the love of running until I was in my early 30s. I still recall relentlessly hacking up my lungs after my very first 5K. Since then, I ran many races, 5Ks to marathons. I've also completed a few 50Ks and one 50-miler in the past 2 years. I'll be running the same 50-miler again this race in April. Need to go back for revenge. Anyhow, I wanted to let you know how much you've done for me, not just running. You've been a crucial part of my life since I found you on YouTube. You didn't just tell me what shoes to run in or the hydration pack I need to run longer distances. You were there when I needed to be healthier. You were there to encourage and inspired me to run more. I've certainly traveled to many more places in the world and destination races and runs. When I needed to make a career change, you helped me overcome my fear when you so boldly decided to be the Ginger Runner full time. It was the moment I said to myself, if Ethan can do it, so can I. I've taken the leap to be my own boss. Now I'm on my own with my chiropractic practice. A majority of my day is working with runners and talking about running. I'm not sure where running will take me, but I'm confident that life is just not right without a good run. Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts. Thank you for all the good work you do. And that's all I have to say about that. Sincerely, Kimosabi 75. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. I remember Alec telling us his story.
Yep.
I don't remember if it was in a post show or anything like that, but again, a frequent viewer of this show. For many years, he's been watching Ginger Runner live, and I remember seeing his name in the chat room because it's very recognizable, Kimosabi 75. But we didn't really know, we don't know a lot of your stories, right? We don't necessarily know you in person, but we kind of get a sense of, well, this person comes back every Monday and they're a runner and they share race results or something like that. And in Alec's case, I remember there was an episode, I forget if it was Ginger Runner Live or again, it could have been a Patreon post show or something. But we talked about him taking the leap of faith to pursue something that he was passionate about. And I have so much respect for anyone that does that. I'm going to share a brief story about Ginger Runner and everything. I've talked a lot about it recently. And part of me is like, man, I want to talk about this more because I feel like my life has changed completely because of it. And I feel like if other people can find that shift in their own life, that happiness, there'll be a lot more happiness in this world. When I moved to Los Angeles, I left a lot behind, not just family and friends, but like career, money, success. I mean, everything, because I felt there was something missing and I wasn't happy. Being able to identify parts of your life that maybe you aren't the happiest or aren't giving you the most fulfillment is key in actually finding what makes you happy. When I moved to Los Angeles, the first few years are super tough. It's not an easy city to get going in, especially if you already have a career, success or what it's like to succeed. And then you move to a city where it's really difficult to get that. It can be really hard on you. So the first few years that I lived here sucked. And then things started to click. I found community. I found people that were of like mind. I found creative outlets. I was able to do what I always dreamed of doing. But things began to kind of change. When I started to do Ginger Runner stuff, it wasn't because of a necessity. It was all because of just a joy of something. I liked running. I enjoyed running in my free time. I wanted to create content that no one else was doing. And that gradually led to this, which is where we are right now in this very second, sitting in front of a live audience of a couple hundred people, if not more, plus thousands tomorrow, who will be watching this and celebrating themselves and their own successes, because this is a community of people who don't tear each other down, but build each other up. And I think that's fantastic. I will never regret moving to Los Angeles. I would have always regretted not moving here. All the success in the world where I grew up and what I thought I had means nothing. Money means nothing. What means a lot now is this community and the people that I have found that make me a better person and make this life a better life. So Alec, I bow down to you, because making the choice to do something that gives you joy is incredibly difficult, because you're giving up a lot, even if it's not necessarily financial, maybe it's family. There are so many things that people end up giving up to pursue a passion. In your case, I hope you stick with it. I hope it gives you as much joy as I believe it does. And it sounds like you are influencing a lot of people, clients and other runners and members of your community. So you are doing something good. And I want to celebrate that. So nice job, Alec. Congratulations to you, my friend.
Yeah, I love that story.
I hope you guys can pull some inspiration from tonight's episode. Again, every viewer mail turns a little bit different. Like, there's always different stories, whether it's race related stuff or just general questions about beer. That's what I like about it too.
I think Alec's story is really awesome. And like you and I, when we first met, neither of us were runners.
No, I think I was dabbling. I dabbled basically as a way to try to stay fit. Because I've always been a little bit bigger. And so my thing was, well, if I run, then I'll be able to keep weight off, or I can eat whatever I want, stuff like that. I
couldn't run a mile, and I didn't I just was like, this isn't happening.
You didn't believe you could run at all.
No.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting just over the years how things change and how you kind of find your passion, and the fact that people are following their passion, I think, is really important. And I think that's kind of a trend we're starting to see a little bit now, is maybe that, that big house and all those what do you call
all the
it? Like
cars and successes
right,
and keeping up with the Joneses. That's not important, guys.
It's not what life is about.
I spent years chasing that. And it doesn't, I mean, this is a whole different topic and we could probably do a whole show on this, but that stuff doesn't matter. If you think it matters, then maybe it matters to you.
Sure. Yeah. I shouldn't say that it doesn't matter. I guess it does matter to some people, but for us, that's not
where we are.
That's not what it
and kind of what we do. We've had to make do with very little for a long time. And it really helps you appreciate having even just a little. I mean, we're very fortunate. I'm not saying that we're not fortunate people, right. But it's something that you begin to realize you begin to realize that there are certain things in your life that do make you happy and complete you. And for me, I'm 36. I'm not old, but I also feel like I'm exponentially older than I was when I was 26.
That's true.
The things that are important to me now are my wife, having a roof over our head, and just overall enjoyment of life and not complicating it with too much outside of that. Dovetailing with this conversation, we're going to wrap up this main episode, but we would not be here in front of this camera, microphone, and in this room without the support of our Patreon supporters. I have to thank, we do it every week. We obviously thank you guys every week. Obviously tonight, maybe you guys will understand why it is so important to us that we thank you, because this wouldn't be possible. I'm not an elite runner. Kim's not an elite runner. We don't win races. We don't pull prize purses. We don't have sponsors.
Right.
I was going to say the sponsorships by choice. We choose not to do anything that puts any question into the reviews and keeps us completely neutral. We don't have a choice in not winning, because I don't feel like I could train really hard and go win a race. I just would never be that fast. But because of the Patreon supporters, we are able to do this full time. So we are mid-packers with a passion for a sport that we are not necessarily good at, but we're able to make a living doing it.
And we like it.
And we like it. And we like it a lot. So thank you, Patreon supporters. If you are not a Patreon supporter, that's totally cool. Do not feel pressure or obligation to join up on the Patreon crew. There are perks that are really fun.
I'm going to go. Do you want them for the main show?
Nope. Well, yeah, we'll do them right now. Okay. Yeah, go grab them. You'll see what we're talking about here in just a second before we go. There are some really fun perks, one of which Kim is going to get right now for those who are on Patreon. But again, it is not something that you should feel obligated to do. Those of you who are supporters, thank you very much. Many of you, including viewers tonight, we've had as supporters since the beginning, since we started doing Patreon as our sole source of income. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen who are at those levels. But we're going to do a post show here where we're going to answer a lot more questions. We're going to probably read a couple more viewer emails and stuff like that. And the post shows are for Patreon supporters. So again, consider it patreon.com/thegingerrunner. That supports both Kim and myself. It is kind of an umbrella support. Yeah.
I just was going to mention pull one last comment out of the chat room, which I think is interesting, and I think a lot of people can relate to. Bradley Atkinson in the chat room says, I was still kind of smoking before my first marathon. And I was actually chatting with a friend this weekend. There is a surprising amount of ex-smokers that are very, very good runners that you may not even know. So it's never too late.
It's never too late. It's never too late. I'll have you... we're just going to give the main show here a little sneak peek. We're going to talk a lot more about these in the post show with the Patreon supporters. For those who are Patreon supporters, the post show link is already posted to Patreon. So just go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner and you can join us for the post show. Every level of Patreon support, even down to $1 a month, gets you access to all of the post shows, not only future ones, but also past episodes, as well as perks and other benefits, including viewing A Decade On. We've had over 120 people join Patreon in the last week just to view A Decade On. So thank you, new joiners. And if any of you guys would like to join to watch the movie, you can do it for a month, guys. There's also no obligation to do it longer than that. I don't want to do any more sales pitching because I think it's dirty. We'll see you guys in the post show if you aren't supporting on Patreon. But also, we'll show you guys some of these. We have actual, living, brand new, limited edition Ginger Runner head wraps ready to go. Patreon gets first dibs. Everyone else will have to wait. We got 2 styles, and we're going to show a lot more of them. Keep it down, keep it down. We'll show a lot more of them in the post show. What are you going to say?
These are the only 2.
These are the only two. We have two. $10,000. 10,000. No, I'm just kidding. Cool. So we're gonna wrap up the main show here, guys. Every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific, we go live. Next week, we have a really fun guest. I'm pretty sure it's about 100. It's about 110% confirmed.
I don't even know this.
Gavin Woody.
Oh.
Northwest. I don't even want to call him an ultra runner because this guy does things well beyond what is like you would think the human body is capable of. He just finished what's called the God Zone in Australia. It's either Australia or New Zealand. Again, I'm like still researching it because it's bonkers. We're gonna have him on the show next week. This guy, I am so excited to have him on. He's a Northwest adventurer and just a rad dude with some incredible accomplishments, flying under the radar. But I feel like he's had this like cool rise to the top lately, and I can't wait to talk to him, pick his brain about how he does what he does. So that'll be a real fun episode. So every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we do Ginger Runner Live. So come join us. We'll see you guys next week. Unless you are a Patreon supporter, we'll see you in just a couple of seconds as we restart in the Patreon push-up.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your emails. We appreciate your stories, and
so sorry we couldn't get through all of them.
To share your stories.
Yeah, we have lots of stories, and again, I think we got to do another one of these sooner than later. So we will do more with more of these viewer emails because, like, already there's 15 that I just got within the show, and I haven't been able to read. So, thank you guys. We'll see you next week. Get out there, train hard, race harder. Party the hardest.
I know I am.
Ginger Runner.